when I'm not starting to get at least a little concerned that the Student Loan Forgiveness Act isn't going to cover my crippling library card debt. I like to answer questions and comments I get on YouTube, so let's get to it. Hey Sean, quick question. Do dominant chords resolve to minor in the same way they do to major? For instance, does A7 resolve to D major as well as D minor, or is it different? It's a quick question, but the answer is probably not that quick. I mean, it can be quick, yes. But the real answer kind of goes into the difference between major and minor. So I do want to talk a little bit about this because I remember being very confused early on when I started playing on the differences between major and minor. And I don't mean the differences between a scale, right? So just a real quick recap on the difference between the major scale and the minor scale. If we have A minor, right, we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. That's the minor scale. Ominous sounding, right? If we have A major, we have A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. So A major, A minor. Now those populate, they consist of totally different notes, right? They share a couple of them, like the root and the fifth and so on, but they're different notes, so obviously they're different, and they're gonna make different chords. But what I wanna talk about is the difference between a major key and its relative minor key, okay? So to kind of keep it simple, let's say an A minor and C major, all right? C major scale is the first scale that they have everybody learn, right? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, okay? All just the regular notes, all the naturals, no sharps or flats. That pairs well with the A minor scale. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. So stick with me here because I think this is going to shed some light because this is something that my eyes would gloss over, almost like talking with the modes. Because essentially, A minor is a mode of C major, okay? Where it's different is where your tonal center is, okay? If you were to just make a bunch of chords out of all those notes, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, they're the same notes, in the same order. You can move them around however you want, but there is kind of a different sound when you have a key that is different, okay? So real quick, let's talk about the chords that populate C major and A minor. All right, C, E, G, C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B, half diminished, and C, okay? Now if you were just to play an A minor chord and avoid that C major chord, right? We just got it. Maybe A minor to D minor, E. That tonal center is now A minor, so we would say that's in the minor key. So you might be like, well, what's the difference between C major and A minor? Well, you could say that there really isn't a difference. It's just like a feel or something like that. But I think that the difference that everybody should be aware of is at the heart of the question that was asked, where the dominant 7 chord takes you, okay? So now, in the key of C, the fifth note, C, D, E, F, G, is going to be the dominant chord, okay? All that means is G7, G dominant 7, leads you home to C, right? It has a harmonic function to take you somewhere. You can't just end there. You'd be a jerk just to end there. It's terrible. Just like that jerk librarian that keeps racking up those fees, even though, like, yeah, okay, I was a day late. Nobody else is renting that book. That's stupid. Nobody even goes to the library anymore. C major, G7 to A minor. You know, it fits because it's in the same key, but that G7 is begging you to come home, okay? Now, A minor has its own chord that is 5 notes away, A, B, C, D, E, that'll kind of take you back to A minor, right? A minor, E minor, A minor. But what if we made that E a dominant 7 chord? A minor, E7 to A. Think about how that sounds versus A minor, E minor, A minor, right? And as you think about that, let's talk about Elixir strings because they sponsored this video. They're the best sounding strings in the game. They last forever. I don't even remember the last time I changed the strings on this guitar, but I know these are Elixirs because I know they still sound great even after like 3 months or whatever. I actually just went on their Instagram live stream and it was a lot of fun. So check out their Instagram too because I think they have that whole interview archived. I talk about the blues. I talk about my backstory. Shout out to Elixir Strings. These are the polywebs that I'm holding in my hand. I actually have the nano webs on this guitar, but I go back and forth between both strings. Love Elixir Strings. You will not be dissatisfied with them. Click the link in the description to get yourself a set of Elixir strings, because if you don't have Elixirs, you definitely need new strings on your guitar. And even if you have them, it's good to have a backup set, right? So A minor to E7. Sounds right, doesn't it? Let's do that same progression. A minor, D minor, E7. Sounds right, doesn't sound out of place, but if you look at an E7, if we got this note, we have a G sharp in it, okay? So that's not in the key. But why does it still sound good? Well, it comes down to leading tones, all right? Why does a G7 resolve to C major anyways? Let's look at the notes in a G major, or a G dominant 7. We have a G, a B, a D, and an F, okay? So a G is also a note in a C major chord. C major is a C, E, G. Don't feel like you have to memorize all the names of the notes. Eventually it'll come and it'll be helpful. So it's good to think about it, but don't feel like you have to follow along with the actual names of the notes in it. But the point is, all right, so a G is already in that chord, that C major chord, right? Well, the next note, a B in a G major chord, well, that's a half step to C, right? So it's almost C. That's as close as you can get to a C note without being a C note. Is that B, a D, right? Your D is kind of in between C and E, but that D in that G chord turns into, leads you to the E, the major third in C, and that F also kind of leads you, which is again a half step from E, full step from G. Either way, it's like all the notes in that chord are almost, they're just about the notes that bring you to the home chord, right? The thing with E minor, natural, to A minor, it's about the same thing. We've got an E, a G, a B, and an E minor chord, and an A, a C, and an E. So that root note in that E minor chord, it's dominant. Secondary dominant is a term some people might be throwing around in the comments. Don't worry about that right now. That E is in the chord, right? And that B in the E minor chord is almost a C in the C that's in an A, C, E, and A minor chord. But what we don't have is that leading tone, that G sharp that almost brings us to the root, okay? E minor has a G. The A minor scale has a G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Now, what if we just made that G a G sharp? Then we get the E7, that E dominant 7 chord. If we were to make that in the scale, if we were to replace the G with the G sharp, we'd get A, B, C, D, E, F, G sharp. And having it almost be an A makes you go home. Now, if we just took all the G's out of that and just replaced it with G sharp, then we'd actually get the A harmonic minor scale. But really, it's more about adding a G sharp to the G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G sharp, G, G sharp, A. And that's why the 5 of a minor chord really kind of lets you know that you're in that minor key. You can still use an E7 in the key of C, right? It sounds fine. That would be a use of a secondary dominant, okay? So if I'm in the key of C, you know, F, A minor. It's like, you know, it works, but it works better going from E to A. Just like G7 works better, C to a C chord, right? So I think that thinking about the differences between major and minor in terms of the dominant chord to get there is a great way to really think about the difference between the relative minor and the relative major of a key, right? Because that G sharp really just lets you know we're heading to A minorville. So hopefully that shedded a little bit of light. Shed a little bit of light on that question, thanks to Elixir Strings. Who are you to judge my mermaid fanfic, Sean? So I say so many stupid things on the internet that I'm sure I said something that sounded judgmental about mermaid fanfiction, but I have no recollection of what that might be. So every now and then I'll get a comment referencing something very specifically weird, and I'm just like, yeah, checks out. I probably said something like that. So you're right. I'm probably not in a position to judge mermaid fanfic, but I'm pretty sure at the time I said it, I meant what I said. They look like Thor and Loki or He-Man and Ant-Man. You know what? So this is actually on Davidas's new video where we go through some new stuff that his new era that he's starting. I'll link you to that video because, like, that video is so fun for us to have been a part of. And yeah, I will 100% take the Thor and Ant-Man thing for that dynamic duo, though. So spread the word. Given that you are so happy about your new sound setup, could a remastering of your Dragonfly album make some interesting content of what changes you might make now compared to them? I think this is a great idea and a very high effort idea. So I do want to revisit some old songs eventually, but I actually have like a really cool new thing that I'm working on this coming week. So if you guys have any questions, I'm doing a bunch of acoustic, just solo rider stuff because I have a very special announcement coming in the next couple days. And I'm going to be going through some acoustic recording techniques. So if you have any questions on recording, let me know because I'm shooting a whole series of videos just kind of documenting some cool stuff. And then definitely stay tuned because I'll probably clickbait some like important announcement thing coming up. But it has a lot to do with the Emeryld Ryders, so stay tuned for that. Someone give this man a lesson on guitar tone. This sounds horrid. Oh, the tone police. The tone police have come for me again. It's so funny, like, people really get very upset about guitar tone, specifically if you're trying to play in a certain style. I think a lot of like the tone police out there are really salty blues commenters that are looking for a very specific mid-range scooped overdriven guitar sound, and it's like there's so much out there that like I don't have anything to add to that tonal conversation of the mid scooped, keep the mids out, overdrive, clon, centaur, guitar community out there. I just kind of have my own mid-range vibe. So I'm sorry that you don't like the tone, but guess what? Tone is as we see it. I thought I was gonna have something more insightful to say about that. But I probably should have thought about that before I just opened my mouth. But anyways, that's where we are. You can do better than Emma Watson, bro. Man, I wish that was the case. So the other day, I had a video about like trying to crowdsource the people to help me meet Emma Watson and have her marry me, which would be awesome. And a couple people were like, bro, no, like you can do better than Emma Watson. Really? I admire and appreciate the confidence that you guys have in me, but I would settle if that were the case. As a fully qualified bedroom guitarist, sans looper, what is the best looper you've ever encountered? Thanks in advance. All right, this is a question that I feel like I actually know a lot about because I've done a video on basically every looper pedal basically invented. Now again, the answer that nobody wants to hear is it kind of depends. What do you like to do? Kind of depends on you, right? What's your style? What are your ambitions? What are your goals? But I've got two of them for different kind of ideas that you might want to think about. If, you know, you're just looking for something just to get into it, something very budget friendly, the MXR Clone Looper is an awesome looper. The price is right. It's not the cheapest one out there. The Ditto one is fine, but the Ditto only has one button, unless you go up to the higher version of it. I like the Clone Looper because I think it's very important to have two buttons on your looper. Otherwise, you get into kind of like having to press and hold, double tapping, stuff like that. I feel like that's a lot to do when you're first starting to kind of just get into the habit of just connecting your foot to like a beat. So that's why I like the Clone Looper because it has cool stuff. Like it has a reverse function too, which I can't say I really use that often, but it's cool. And it's solid. It's like a metal chassis. It's not plastic at all. Really great looper. My favorite looper is the Pigtronix Infinity 3. Now, the reason that I love this looper, aside from having an extra button, is because you can have two loops of different lengths that you can play on top of each other. Now, my idea of looping something is I want to loop like a whole song because something that really interests me is like the changes in songs, right? So that's what I found that's hard to do with loopers. It's like, all right, if I have like a part of a song, like a verse, like an actual song would work, and then I have a chorus that is a different length, it's hard to actually get both of those in the same looper. This is nice because you can have your A part be totally different and independent from your B part, and then you can just switch back and forth between them once you get it on. Also, there are multiple inputs and outputs on this. There's a lot of cool stuff that the Infinity does. I've done videos on this if you guys are interested. But this is my favorite looper. Again, it's a little bit more expensive than something just basic. But yeah, if you're just starting out, MXR Clone Looper. If you want something that you can like really do like really cool performance stuff with, Pigtronix Infinity 3. All right, so for listening homework this week, Muse came out with a new album, and I have very strong thoughts on that new album, which is why listening homework is going to be Radiohead, my favorite band of all time. Radiohead, man, the From the Basement recording from them is just so good. If you have time, watch it. It's so good. I shouted out Warpaint from the Basement taping a week or two ago. That's amazing. They do the best job sound wise there, and Radiohead is just awesome. So thank you again to Elixir Strings for sponsoring this video, rocking out the Taylor 816 as usual. And like I said, if you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website. I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks a lot.